My name is Caleb Monroe, and for a long time, I believed silence was peaceful. I was wrong. Silence isn't peaceful when it follows you from room to room, when it waits for you behind closed doors, when it settles into the furniture like it belongs there more than you do. I lived alone in a narrow two-story house on the edge of Riverbend, Oregon, where the rain seemed to fall with intention. The house had once belonged to my uncle, a man who believed he could fix almost anything if you were patient enough. He left me the house in a lifetime of unfinished repairs. A porch light that flickered, a stair that complained every time you stepped on it, a heater that only worked when winter got desperate. But the house was paid off. And at 26, that felt like stability. I worked as a maintenance technician for a property management company, the kind of job people only notice when something broke. Leaking pipes, jammed doors, faulty wiring. I spent my days fixing things people didn't want to think about, and my nights pretending I didn't mind coming home to an empty house. I told myself I liked it this way. No expectations, no disappointment, just quiet. The call came on a Tuesday night in early November. Luxury condo. Top floor. Emergency leak. It was already dark, rain pouring hard enough to blur the road lines, but something in the dispatcher's voice made me grab my jacket without arguing. Some problems can't wait. When I stepped into Unit 14C, the warmth hit first. Expensive heat, steady and quiet. The second thing I noticed was how still the place felt. Not peaceful, controlled, like no one ever truly relaxed there. That's when I saw her. Lauren Whitmore stood near the kitchen island, barefoot on marble tile, arms folded tightly across her chest. She wore an oversized sweater and jeans that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill, but she didn't look polished. She looked tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. "Thank you for coming so late," she said. Her voice was calm, practiced. Her eyes were not. I got to work without asking questions. Old pipe, pressure issue, water damage just waiting to get worse. It took almost an hour, and during that time, she stayed nearby without hovering, pretending to scroll through emails she wasn't reading. When the leak finally stopped, the apartment felt even quieter. "That should hold," I said. She exhaled, shoulders dropping for the first time. "Thank you." I packed my tools, ready to leave, when the silence pressed in again, heavy, uncomfortable. Without thinking, without planning, I joked. "If it ever feels too empty up here," I said with a nervous laugh, "I've got a spare room." The words hung between us longer than they should have. She didn't smile. She just looked at me, really looked at me, like she was filing the moment away. I left 10 minutes later, convinced I'd said something stupid. She knocked on my door at 6:34 a.m. I opened it half asleep, expecting a delivery or a confused neighbor. Instead, Lauren stood on my porch with a single suitcase and eyes that looked like they hadn't rested all night. "Is your offer," she asked softly, "still real?" For a moment, my brain refused to cooperate. "You don't have to say yes," she added quickly. "I just needed somewhere quiet, somewhere temporary." The rain dripped from the roof. The porch light flickered. I stepped aside. "Come in." Living together wasn't romantic. Not at first. It was cautious, measured. Two strangers sharing space without knowing how long it would last. Lauren paid rent without being asked. I didn't question it. She stayed mostly in the spare room during the first week. I'd come home from work to find food left on the stove, covered neatly with foil. No notes, no expectations. Some nights, I heard her walking around at odd hours, pacing like her thoughts wouldn't let her rest. Other nights, I heard her crying quietly behind a closed door. I never knocked. Gradually, the house started to change. The silence softened. The air felt warmer. One morning, I came home to find the loose cabinet hinge fixed, the one I'd ignored for months. Another night, she organized a pile of overdue bills on my kitchen table without saying a word. We started talking more after that. Not about big things. About music she used to love. About my uncle teaching me how to fix a radiator. About childhood memories that felt distant but still sharp. She told me she'd spent years in boardrooms making decisions that affected thousands of people. I told her I fixed toilets and didn't know what direction my life was going. She smiled faintly and said, "That sounds like freedom." I didn't know how to respond. The first real shift happened during a blackout. A storm knocked out power across the neighborhood, and we sat in the living room with candles between us. Shadows danced along the walls. Rain hammered the roof. "I don't know who I am without my job," she said suddenly. I stared at the flame. "I don't know who I am with one." She laughed softly, not amused, just honest. That night, she fell asleep leaning against my shoulder. I didn't move. Some moments don't need fixing. Weeks passed. She started wearing my hoodies around the house. I started sleeping better. The house felt lived in for the first time since my uncle died. When her old life called, with money, power, and certainty, I felt the change before she said anything. She grew quieter, more distant. The morning she left, the house felt hollow. 3 days later, headlights pulled into my driveway near midnight. Lauren stepped out, soaked and shaking, suitcase still unopened. "I couldn't do it," she said. "I kept thinking about this house, about how it feels like breathing." I didn't speak. I just pulled her into my arms. We didn't promise forever. We promised honesty. The house still creaks. The rain still falls. The future is uncertain. But every night, the porch light stays on. And every morning, I wake up knowing the silence is finally gone. Thank you for watching Classic Stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that remind us how powerful compassion truly is.